Hey guys, much love MTG here, coming at you with another video. It is currently October 3rd, so it's been about a week or so since, actually yeah, now today's Thursday, it's been exactly a week since Throne of Eldraine dropped. The two major tournaments that have been played, I think SEG did a tournament this weekend, which I haven't looked at the results for yet, but the two other tournaments that have results posted so far, these two Fandom Legend events. Not super big, not a huge field, but quality players participate in them. Big names, people who know what they're doing. You know more about Magic than I do. This is the list that won the first one. This is made by Brian Gottlieb. The deck centers around Doom Foretold, effectively getting rid of all your opponent's permanents, and then later in the game, Doom Foretold makes both you and your opponent sacrifice non-land, non-token permanents. And we try to make that this deck tries to make that a one-side effect by having these egg, and the golden egg and golden globe, these 2-drop artifacts that do nothing but really, they fix mana, which actually can be relevant to make it easier to cast something like a Kaya's Wrath on turn 4 to sweep up the board versus creatures. There are a lot of mid-range creature decks running around in the format. And they also just ETB and draw cards, so they're very free to sacrifice to Doom Foretold, and then later in the game, you dance to the Mance, ideally for X equals 6, and bring them back from the yard as 4/4s and kill your opponent. Potentially you can do it at instant speed with Teferi. Potentially you can also just do some stuff where you Oath of Kaya their face a few times, bounce it back with Teferi. Depending on how many are in the yard, you just get triggers off of that from Dance to the Mance. There are some interesting ways you can actually win games and close out games with this deck. I've played it quite a bit, and actually figuring out how you want to close out games is pretty interesting. You can do a decent amount of chip damage with Oath of Kaya triggers, the actual Oath of Kaya ETB, and the 2/2 that comes off of Doom Foretold, and it also does deal 2 damage to your opponent. They lose 2 life, discard a card, and you gain 2 life, draw a card, and you make a 2/2 knight. So there's a whole bunch of interesting. There's actually, when you play a deck like this, it's easy to fall into thinking you can't win unless you dance to the Mance with X equals 6 and make your 4/4s and attack them like that. There's actually a whole bunch of interesting ways you can win games with this deck. You can sometimes, if people aren't paying attention, they're taking, they feel like they're not playing versus an aggressive deck. They end up taking maybe too much damage from an Oath of Kai, attacking down your Teferis or the actual Doom Foretold triggers. But yeah, it's an interesting deck to play. I played it quite a bit and hit platinum with it actually before the season ended, the last one. This is the version I was playing with it. It's a little bit more streamlined. I cut some of the interaction, such as Murderous Rider, Legion's End, and Dovin's Veto, and put in this more proactive card, Witching Well. Has the Scry 2 portion of Serum Vengeance, which is a modern staple for blue decks. Doesn't draw you a card right away though, but instead it sits in play. It's an artifact that we can sacrifice to Doom Foretold or get back with Dance of the Mance, but if games do go long, which they tend to with this deck, as you're sort of answering all your opponent's permanents, you can eventually draw 2 cards with it, and this was quite relevant for me while I was playing with it. But yeah, I also brought in a 4th Dance of the Mance. Questionable if it's relevant. The thing is, I like having the 4th one just because so often you verse blue-black decks, so you often take a copy of it out of your hands, and it just kind of helps to have all of them, I feel. But yeah, I played this to Mythic, but I've been having some poor results with it the past couple of days. Playing for Simic Flash, it's pretty frustrating. Your interaction comes down pretty slow, and countering Wraths is exactly what that deck wants to be doing, as opposed to having to interact with like several different forms of spot removal. Quite easy to answer a Wrath or a 4-mana sorcery effect, as opposed to a 2-mana effect like Tyrant Scorn or D-Spark, which you might have played in the old Esper deck before the rotation. So that was the first deck that won a Fandom Legends event. I'll go over some other quick decks I checked out. So there's also the Great Henge deck. This isn't an exact list that was played or anything. This is something I threw together, so it's bad, obviously. But it's just green, black, good creatures and the Great Henge. You run 3 copies if you're a reasonable person. You run 4 copies if you're a man. So that's that. Here's a deck I tried building around Ironcrag Pyromancer and Improbable Alliance. These cards that want you to draw 2 cards a turn. So ideally you have something like maybe the Royal Scions, which will always draw you a second card on your turn. pretty easy. And then you have cards like Chemist's Insight and Thrill of Possibilities, which can draw you 2 cards on your opponent's turn for another activation of these things. I found that this is pretty unplayable in the current format. It's honestly just slow versus most of the creature decks. You have some Beacon Bolts for value. I played Lava Coils in it. Just to kill things. So Ironcrag Pyromancer takes care of anything pretty easily once it gets going with 3 toughness or less. 4 gets a little bit harder, so we have 4 Lava Coils, 2 Beacon Bolts for value. Jumpstart are a good mechanic to have in this deck since there's a lot of looting effects to do your drawing, just because there's nothing so overpowered. Like, you know, it would be nice if this were just draw a card, but it's not. It's discard a card, so it helps to have things that are helps to have things with Jumpstart on them, instants and sorcery, so you can still get value of them with them out of your yard, discarding a land once you've gotten up to 6 or so. 1 copy of the Magic Mirror. But all in all, this is a bad deck and it's not really playable. It's really just too slow versus most of the creature decks. Trying to get this thing into play on turn 3 and then hoping to untap with it and start going off. I mean, it's just unlikely to happen, really. There's a whole bunch of Lava Coils and Assassin's Trophies and Okos, which can just turn, you know, if you want to like try to build some deck that's like heavy synergy reliance around one creature, Oko just turns it into a 3/3 and says, well, I don't think you should be playing this card. Why don't you have a 3/3 instead? So, and then also Narset absolutely just shuts down this mechanic because, hey, you can't draw more than 1 card a turn. So, unfortunately, you know, this deck looks cool, it looks fun. It's completely unplayable though, due to Narset, Oko, and the form, and just generally being a little too slow. Sometimes you get to do stuff with Ironcrag Pyromancer, but not most of the time. So that's that deck. That's just a random deck I built just because I wanted to try those cards and just see what it was like, and it's not great, guys. So don't spend any of your Mythic Wallet cards crafting the Royal Scion like I did. I'll save you the trouble. Wolfpack is an interesting deck. It's also another one of those just kind of like, yeah, this is a cute thing you can do, but if you ever get to the point where you're allowed to do that, then you probably could have won with any other deck, or just with a better Simic deck. So Brian Gottlieb made the Esper Stax deck that won the first Fandom Legends, and he also won the second one with this Shepherd Golos deck. So with the rotation, Escape Shift from M19 is gone, so we can't. It's a little bit harder to shoot up lands, but fortunately we have this guy Golos, who also doesn't search for any amount of lands you want or as many, but he gets you 1, and a lot of times that's all you need. Sometimes you just naturally draw your Field of the Deads, and then when you don't, you can search for them with Golos. Is it possible you never see either of these 8 cards over the course of the first 5 to 6 turns of a game? Maybe no Graces, and maybe no Realmcloak Giant, possibly, but that's okay. But most of the time, no. You do get your Golos, and you do your Arboreal Grazer on turn 1 or 2, and then you get to Security's Root on 3, maybe Golos on 4, and you're off into the races, making zombies. And you've got Hydroid Graces because you're ramping, so why not draw more cards and put a big fatty in play, gain some life, help stabilize versus aggressive decks. And Realmcloak Giant, a card that really shines here. It is a Wrath. Most people aren't playing too many Giants. There is that 4/3, what's that card called actually? I think the front end is called Stomp. Yeah, Bone Crusher Giant. This is the one Giant that's really running around. Take a look at the other ones actually. There's not too many Giants running around in Standard right now. Yeah. So this Beanstalk Giant sees some play in the Jund Adventure deck, but that and Bone Crusher Giant are the only ones seeing play, and maybe in a mirror match you'll see more Realmcloak Giants. But this is effectively a 5-mana Wrath with a 7/7 Vigilance. Vigilance is a very nice thing to have on your 7/7. Would be great if it had Trample and Death Touch too, but hey, can't ask for everything. Trample would be really great, but that'd be too much. But it's nice, you can pressure your opponent with the 7/7. And also have it back to block, you know, and a lot of times versus aggro decks, it's kind of hard deciding, you know, do I want to swing with this and try closing the game out, or leave it back to block? Vigilance is a nice keyword to have, so you get to do both those things at once, and generally, by the time you're casting this card, and you've already used the front end or back end, whichever it is, to Wrath their opponent, there's not much laying around to block this thing, and it closes games pretty fast. Now, outside of those decks that have won Phantom Legends, which deck is it? I think it's this one. This is a Simic list I've been playing. It's pretty good. you mostly just want to go gold. It has so I mean an extremely thing to be doing in standard right now is turn 2 Gilded Goose or turn 1 Gilded Goose and turn 2 Oko. Also turn 1 Accelerant, turn 2 Accelerant, and turn 3 Nissa. Also very powerful. And landing a Wicked Wolf on turn 3 and eating something that is either, you know, really up to with a food token in play, anything with 4 toughness or smaller you can get with this thing on turn 3. This really is great at sort of slamming the door shut versus aggressive decks. So Wicked Wolf's been great. And then 4 Hydra Crazes is pretty stock. 4 Voracious Hydra, probably not correct. 4 Once Upon a Time, also probably not what most people play. I'm actually kind of surprised. I checked the list Jerry T has been playing of sort of the Simic Good Stuff deck, and I think he was playing basically Paradise Druids and some other interesting one-ofs, Brazen Borrower, Trimmed a few Once Upon a Times, and that was the list he was playing. I don't really get why. I don't know if people just kind of forgot about Risen Reef, but I feel like if you're going to play a deck with 4 Leafkin Druids, you really should play 4 Risen Reefs. I can't see why you would play, once you have the Leafkin Druids, I can't see why you would want to slot in Paradise Druids over the Risen Reef. I mean, it is 2 instead of 3, but our 3-drop isn't super clogged up. We've only got Oko and this, so I think it's pretty reasonable. 4 Once Upon a Time, also something that most people aren't running. I think sort of the consensus is now that it's great on turn 1, and then, you know, great on a really late term in the game where you just need to find some action, but anywhere in between a little bit awkward. In those middle turns of the game, say between 2 and 5, you really need to be affecting the board every turn rather than sort of cantripping. So most people have trimmed down to 1 or 2 of these. I have a bias with deck building where I just kind of like to play 4 ofs. It's just a thing I like to do. I don't know why. It's kind of like almost a design thing. Just like when I look at a list, I like to see mostly 4 ofs. Just have the deck do what it wants to do. So you should probably trim some number of these and maybe run Brazen Borrowers or just other things that you're interested in. And maybe cut some Voracious Hydras too. You could do things like Tomio. Maybe a main deck Agent of Treachery or Mass Manipulation if you wanted to. Give your top end a little bit of a unique spin. But this is what I've been playing, and it's been pretty decent. So that's a Simic deck, and is there any other deck that's been pretty interesting these past few days? Nah, I think that's kind of it, honestly. So I think, let's jump into ladder. Let's do best of 3. And yeah, let's go ahead and do what I've been doing. Let's play the Simic deck and see how it plays out. Let's do a match with this. It'll be interesting to see how tech develops. The thing is, I don't really know what ladder's like. I mean, ladder is going to be whatever, but it'll be interesting to see sort of in the competitive tournaments how the sideboard and main deck moves around in these green-blue decks and what people prefer on the top end. Whether people go to Mass Manipulation or Agent of Treachery will be interesting, and then depending on whether or people are playing, if people are mostly playing Mass Manipulation, then it'll be easy to lean on negates into your sideboard for the mirror match. But if people, alright, so let's do some game commentary here. I'm going to keep this hand, hoping that the Once Upon a Time can find us a second land, and we have a Goose on turn 1, and then potentially an Oko on turn 2. Though we may want to play these Leafkin Druids on turn 2, or play one of them on turn 2. But we'll see what happens. Alright, so let's just go ahead and Once Upon a Time now. We'll take an untapped land, go ahead and grab a forest. Play the forest our opponent knows about. Don't give him any more information than is required. And turn 1, loose the goose as it makes its eagle noise rather than its honk. Opponent, tap Breeding Pool. So here there's an argument for Oko or... So, seeing that this is blue-green, I'm expecting our opponent to have their own accelerants and sort of small creatures that matter. So I'm going to play the Oko on turn 2 so I can get a plussing and potentially give them a food token and take a bird or a druid from them. So let's do that. Though establishing a Leafkin Druid would help us accelerate into a Hydra or Nissa faster. Let's do this instead. Our opponent with a slow start might just run them over, but who knows, they might come back from this. So we have access to 4 mana. Let's just go ahead and play both these druids. Okay. At the ready with Nissa for next turn. Our opponent seems to be on an elemental deck. This is interesting. Okay, so we have access to 6 mana. We could fight this. I don't think it matters, though. We can just take it from them. Don't think that matters either. Let's go ahead and play Nissa, I guess. Tapping here is interesting. So, making an elemental with Nissa will turn these on, but then also you kind of just want to have force ready. Let's do this. I'm not sure if I'm doing this completely correct, but I don't feel like thinking about it too hard, though, honestly, because I'm not sure it really matters that much. So let's go here. And our opponent's just going to scoop. So, there you go. So that happens in blue-green decks. Sometimes you just run them over. So, I'm not going to bring in the gates. Aether Gust typically decent in these matchups, but seeing as they're an elemental deck, I'm expecting Risen Reef out of them. So, you know, I would sometimes in these blue-green decks, if you want to keep up with the mana dorks when you don't have them, being able to put them on top on turn 2 can be better than having like another X spell in your hand in the early turns if you don't have your early mana guys. But I want to keep the fight effect to keep down the elemental synergies. This might be Teamer, we just didn't see the red source. So I'm actually just not going to sideboard at all, I think. Or I'll cut one Voracious Hydra and bring in one Aether Gust. And call it a day. Let's run it back. Ace 20 is the name of our opponent, rocking the Vivian Reed. I believe that's Vivian Reed, avatar. Okay, so interesting hands. We're on the draw. We've got a Goose into a Risen Reef. I'm going to keep this. I would obviously like to have another untapped land. But this actually also gives us turn 2 Reef here. We drew the untapped land. If you play a lot of Magic, I imagine it's going to start to kind of feel bad eventually. Well, I don't know. Sometimes these Simic matches, they kind of just feels like comes down to, whoops. Alright, let me try to do this correctly and stop talking. See if Risen Reef is going to be a ramp spell or a draw spell. It's a draw spell. Okay, unfortunately, due to Goose kind of requiring food, we don't have the ability to play a Wicked Wolf this turn and eat their Risen Reef. But I think we can just... Does this work? So we play Goose, and then an untapped, yes, we'll have 3. Okay. Make a food token here. Play this untapped. Teamwork makes the dream work. A pair of Gooses and Risen Reefs, all working together, regardless of their differences. No attacks. So who's playing the elemental deck really? Next turn we'll play a Wicked Wolf and take care of the Risen Reef. Card's just always terrible to even play with these elemental decks. And we saw a, you know, the Leafkin Druid Risen Reef package is standard in stock Simic decks, but we see our opponents leaning a little bit harder into the elemental package. Okay, they're going very hard with the elemental package. Dear God. So this turn we only have access to 4 mana, not 6, as you would like to. Alright, there's 5. So, even if we go up to 5, we can Oko make one of these a 3/3. And also get ready to take one, which is pretty interesting too. The other option is to just slam a Wicked Wolf now. Let's play Oko. So we have 5 mana. Let's play Oko, leave up enough to make a food token, and let's turn one of these into a 3/3 right now. And then Wicked Wolf next turn. Nah, let's Wicked Wolf now. Screw all that thinking. Temple of Mystery. Bottom. I think we're at the stage of the game where we want to get our excess lands through Risen Reef triggers and not just natural draw steps. We can make attacks here. Get your damage where you can. Our opponent apparently just leaning very hard into Risen Reef. What is that card they just played? Quadruplicate, very interesting. Also Jumpstart, wow. So this is actually just some super go hard, probably draw your whole deck blue-green deck, which is neat. More interesting than some of the other things that you can be doing, I guess. After seeing that, for the next games, we'll definitely board in. We'll board in all 4 copies of Aether Gust, because we can potentially counter that card by using it on the Risen Reef during the trigger. Alright, so we'll go ahead and get another forest here because we have Nissa in the deck, so unless you absolutely need an island, forest is the default choice. Our opponent has Negate, neat. This only works on red or green things, so you got me, friend. Your opponent playing a very interesting list here. Not boring at all. We'll just go ahead and attack with our Wicked Wolf. We've got Aether Gust at the ready, but unfortunately we only have enough mana to make 1 food token, not 2, so both the Gilded Goose will not be fulfilling their duty as mana boys next turn. Here comes a Cavalier of Thorns. I'm just going to Aether Gust that. Want to deny them the acceleration and the Risen Reef trigger. So next turn, we're gonna Hydroid Krasis for 4. Name Cavalier of Thorns. Get your 1 get. Okay. Yeah, so Krasis for 4. I don't think there's much to think about here. Though actually this does get stonewalled. Maybe it's actually appropriate to Once Upon a Time, and then if nothing else, leave up mana for this Wicked Wolf. Or leave up mana to make food tokens for the Wicked Wolf. I'm okay with taking this Leafkin Druid. Get some more Risen Reef triggers. More mana for Hydroid Krasis next turn so it doesn't get stonewalled by the Cavalier of Thorns. Okay. So I think it's even. Just play a Goose out of our hand rather than leaving up the 2 mana for the food token. And let's just go ahead and attack Tamiyo while we can. Give our opponent less opportunities to regrow something out of the graveyard. And so they don't block at all, so we'll definitely just sack a food token and deal 6 to kill it. Reasonable. I guess our opponent really values this Risen Reef. So now we have access to 6, 7, 8. We can make our Hydroid Krasis a 6/6, and now it will no longer get blocked by the Cavalier of Thorns, which is nice. Oh, but Vivian changes the math on that. Cavalier of Thorns, probably the best card in green for defending your Planeswalkers. This is going to be tough. So he can put 2 counters on this and make it a 7-8. This is going to be extremely difficult. So we have access to 6, 7, 8 mana. We can play this X equals 6 and fight the Cavalier of Thorns. I believe that is the best play. Gives him whatever he wants out of his graveyard, which is pretty stocked from the Tamiyo activations and this thing being cast, which is rough, but I think it's the best play. Because if we let this hang out and this gets counters on it, we're definitely never attacking with anything ever again, probably. So I think this is what we have to do. X equals 6, auto pay. Our team of geese over here are not accomplishing much this game, kind of just hanging out the way things have shaped up. Let's go ahead and fight this 5-6. And now we're going to attack with both our Risen Reefs at Vivian Arcbow Ranger, and it'll be interesting to see whether he opts to keep that or lose his Risen Reefs. It appears his deck, I think his deck values his Risen Reefs more than I value mine, but we'll see. And this is the pick. Always a good one. Let's see what happens here. Gonna lose 2 Risen Reef or lose your Vivian? I'm guessing he's gonna keep Risen Reef. No. He wants Vivian, wow. Maybe he has more. His Leafkin Druid's also tapped for less mana now. But he's got plenty. 3 islands and 2 forests tapped for Nissa. Or the Leafkin Druid, sure. Three islands and no forest. Still has access to 6, 8, 9, 10 mana this turn. Vivian incredibly powerful. And there goes Agent of Treachery. That's probably GG. We'll cast some of the Krasis out of our hand, but I believe that's a good game. 2 Planeswalkers active, and now he's got a 6-7 trample on his side of the board, and an active Nissa. Our opponent appears to be playing the bigger blue-green deck.
This will be fun to watch.
No blocks. Need all the mana we can for these Krasis. And while the geese aren't actually producing mana themselves, they are enabling this thing to produce too. So this is an L. Let's see. So just with everything they have going, the 2 Planeswalkers, just casting Krasis is not enough to be doing. The only thing we can Once Upon a Time into is really more Krasis or Voracious Hydra. At this stage of the game to win, you'd really just want a Mass Manipulation or your own Agent of Treachery. We don't have either of those things. So I could drag this game out and cast this Krasis, but it's a wrap. So I'm going to go ahead and make the early concede. So now that we've seen our opponent has a blue instant that's going to target the green permanent, I believe it's more profitable to go ahead and slot in all 4 of these Aether Gust. This is also a spot where now that we've seen Agent of Treachery, you might prefer that this negate was really actually a Disdainful Stroke, which counters any card with converted mana cost 4 or greater. Veil of Summer actually does an effective job of countering Mass Manipulation and Agent of Treachery, so there's something to be said for bringing this in. Tamiyo, just good in mid-range mirrors. Let's see what we might want to trim on. I really like having all of our Wicked Wolves to fight their early mana guys and their Risen Reefs. Oko, same thing, to mind control them or swap them. Trim on Once Upon a Time, oh yeah, that's something I kind of always like to do here. Maybe I'll leave in 1 copy. We've got 3 spots. Let's bring in a Tamiyo, a Mass Manipulation. Did that actually go in the deck? No, it did not. And a Veil of Summer. Is there anything else we might want to trim for? No, I think this is fine. Let's go ahead and run this. Our opponent taking their own interesting variant on the blue-green matchup. Cool deck. Good for you, Ace 20, doing your own thing. We'll go ahead and keep this. We've got a turn 3 Wicked Wolf on the play to eat their mana guy or whatever. Hopefully we draw something other than lands for the rest of the game, though. You got gas in the deck, but there's also lands in the deck. Never know which one you're going to get. There's our Mass Manipulation 1-of, showing up on time. We can curve out into that nicely on turn 3, just kidding. Okay, no Mana Boy. You know what? I'm just going to go ahead and fetch an island right now. Only 4 islands in the deck, actually. I really want to get a Risen Reef or something like that with my Wicked Wolf, so I'm not going to play it now. Wow, my opponent is doing nothing here. Okay, we have Krasis for 4. That's reasonable. Draw 2. And it's a sizable threat. Our opponent's still quite a ways away from their own Cavalier of Thorns to block this. And once again, don't want to play the Wicked Wolf yet. Looks like our opponent just isn't going to play anything like a Risen... I don't know. Okay, there's a Risen Reef. I don't believe there's any way he could protect this with 1 green open, but we'll find out. This guy seems like he's full of surprises. So here we have access to 7 mana, enough to Risen Reef and Wicked Wolf, so should be a nice turn. Or actually, let's go green, green. We actually have access to more mana than that. Let's find out. We need 1 blue for the Risen Reef, so deal like this, or no. I'm probably making tapping my mana here a little bit more complicated than it needs to be, but it's whatever. We now have access to 5, actually. But we're not going to cast a Druid or anything, so yeah, just Risen Reef. So we didn't draw any, well, we have the Mass Manipulation, but it looks like we're just going to kind of curve out on our opponent here. But we'll see what they do. Maybe they can come back from this. Some Planeswalkers or something, or a Cavalier of Thorns, maybe with some Planeswalkers behind it. That could be tough. We don't actually have 4 blue to cast Mass Manipulation, which is why you might want to actually play Risen Reef over that here. Ooh, that's rough. Voracious Hydra. Let's get our 3rd blue source into play, hopefully find a 4th one soon. We still do have access to lots of mana here for a big Krasis. So 10, x equals 8, draw 4. Once again, though, with Agent of Treachery in their deck, though, this is still not... You never know how this is going to swing for us. Hopefully we find our 4th blue source soon. And then with 10 mana available, we can do this where x equals 3. Agent of Treachery, it feels like. Let's see. This is rough. Okay.
The moon looks intriguing tonight. I know I noted this somewhere.
Tell me in the comments of your feelings on Agent of Treachery. Do you feel like that card should be, oh dear God. Well, 2 of these, Jesus. Oh wow, this thing on Agent of Treachery is the nuts. Good lord. So I definitely think we have to attack down the Nissa. We don't have another blue source to play, though we can produce it with Gilded Goose for next turn. So I'm just going to start off by attacking down the Tamiyo. So he has less shots at finding a Agents of Treachery for next turn.
I have learned little here.
And I think I want to put one goose in play. So we have access to how much mana? 4, 7, 11. So yeah, let's do another Crisis for 8 and play one goose so we have access to our 4th blue for next turn to resolve a mass manipulation. Just want to put a lot of power into play and threaten lethal. So this is for 8, I believe. 3, 6, 8, 10. Yeah. And conveniently enough, our opponent is at 16. We'll go ahead and end the turn. How many cards do we have to discard? Let's get rid of a Leafkin Druid. And is there anything we want to look for with Once Upon a Time? Potentially a 3rd or 4th Crisis. I guess that's better than another goose. So let's get rid of another goose. Or actually, Leafkin Druid will cycle. Let's get rid of... Yeah, let's get rid of both these geese, sorry. Hopefully our opponent's just dead here. But if not, we have mass manipulation for them. Alright, so they get to block. They found an Agent of Treachery, which they can put back on top after this Cavalier of Thorn dies. Oh no. So Aether Gust is just going to put this on top, hopefully, unless they have negates. We'll see. We do not have 2 mana up, unfortunately. This is really, really bad. But now they've tapped out, though. Actually, we actually have the win. We just mass manipulation for 2. And we take control of both of these. And we attack for lethal. Tell our opponent good game, because they're done for. I think we actually have enough mana to just take all of this. And there's Breeding Pool. Let's just tap all our mana. So that's 12. That's enough to do it for x equals 4, but we only need to do it for 3. So here, I don't believe Agent of Treachery would have won the game, but Mass Manipulation does, so that's nice. Alright, so there you go. Let's check how long the recording is. Well, alright, so that was a best of 3. Versus another interesting blue-green deck. Our opponent definitely was going bigger than us with Quadruplicate or whatever to make multiple Agents of Treachery, take control of all your stuff, and draw a lot of cards, I guess. And also being able to do that with Risen Reef is pretty cool too. But in the end, it looks like for that last game, they didn't have enough acceleration, and we were able to pull ahead of them with mana. And they had a nice play on, I believe that was turn 6, where they got to fight with their Voracious Hydra. So that was nice for them on turn 6. And then on turn 7, they would have really been back in the game, actually, if they just had an Agent of Treachery. But Tomio digged for it, didn't find it, fortunately enough for us. Had a nice turn after that with Quadruplicate on the... I don't know why I'm recapping the game we just watched. Nonetheless, that was a blue-green matchup. Pretty interesting game, I thought. Hopefully you guys enjoy. Let's see, the recording is at 38 minutes. This feels like a good place to stop. So, got to see some blue-green play. Doesn't everyone love it? So many different ways to build your Simic list, though, honestly. As you saw from that person, we got pretty creative. Didn't just do the stock Planeswalkers and foods to synergies. And then obviously there's Simic Flash also, which is a completely different way to play these colors. You can also just try leaning more into the elemental strategy. Haven't seen any at all teamer elemental list. But yeah, that's the meta right now. Simic decks of all varieties, good place to start. Turn 1 Ram with Goose is nice, turn 2 Oko is nice, but you can also just do as you saw versus our opponent. Maybe some Quadruplicate stuff with Cavalier of Thorns and Agents of Treachery. Don't play the deck that's drawing 2 cards a turn. You'll get wrecked by what is that card? Holy crap, I can't remember her name. Whatever, forget it. This is a good place to end the video. I don't mean to ramble. We're dragging this on. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed the gameplay. And yeah. Had an issue with the channel. This is the second video that'll be going up, I think, if everything goes right. Had an issue with the channel where one of the videos, the first 2 videos I uploaded, you won't see it because I got a kind of a bogus copyright strike from some random company that has nothing to do with the video or anything in it. It's just MTG content. I don't really know what you could copyright strike. But yeah, sort of put a damper in my sales. Wasn't sure if I wanted to upload more videos. Wasn't sure if I wanted to live anymore. But bounced back, and here we are with another video, and I was still alive. So that's nice. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video. This is number 2. I imagine many people won't see this, so just kind of trying to build a habit of posting these, which is easier not to do than it is to do, as with most things in life. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope life is being good to you. And whether it is or isn't, I hope you have the strength of spirit and mind to endure, grow from, and learn, I guess, from the challenges life may be throwing at you, or isn't. Maybe you're just, enjoying the ride. But yeah, this has been Much Love MTG. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you enjoyed the commentary. Have a fantastic day, and maybe, just maybe, I'll see you again with another video. Until then.